Maschine 2.3 has introduced a brand new effect to the Maschine family, and that is the cabinet effect. If you're a guitar player, you can imagine this is pretty straightforward. It is a cabinet that is mic'd by a specific type of microphone. So now you can run virtual instruments, loops, drum groups, live audio, whatever you want through the cabinet effect to kind of get that real world sound of actually pushing audio through a speaker and moving air and all the loveliness that you get from a real kind of relationship like that. Now, I've used it on our main melody here, which is kind of like a plucky synth. And I'm just going to turn it on and you can hear what it's going to do, and I'm going to adjust some of the knobs first. So as I switch through that, you can tell it's kind of just imparting a tone overall on this signal. And what I love about it is that I'm not going to use this like a surgical EQ. For instance, my favorite go-to EQ is always going to be FabFilter Pro Q. So with a parametric EQ like this, you can actually see where all the different bands are, and you can dial in specific boosts or cuts at whatever kind of frequency you want and really know exactly what it's doing to your sound. However, there's just some EQs or some processors in general, like sometimes a compressor, or if you run in the real world, if you run through analog hardware, and it just imparts a tone on your signal. That's how I've been treating the cabinet effect. And it's really nice for that. You know, for instance, this was kind of a harsh, fizzy lead, and I put the cabinet on it to just kind of dull it and give it an entire different shape and texture, which I actually liked. Now, you can run these through a couple different things. This is an American 2x12, British 2x12, meaning two 12-inch speakers, or four 12-inch speakers in a vintage or modern style. And these are essentially like half stacks of your guitar cab. To put this in perspective, let's actually load up Guitar Rig, as this technology comes from Guitar Rig 5. And Guitar Rig 5 has a thing called the Control Room Pro. And if you look at Control Room Pro, it's essentially this. Here's the cabinet type, and you can choose many different cabinets here. For instance, here's the 4x12 vintage, probably a Marshall cabinet of some sort. Here's the R121, which is essentially a Royer 121, or the Dynamic 57, SM57, which is like the standard kind of guitar microphone, right? So essentially, this is what you're using in these different configurations. And then the other option you have here in cabinet is the distance. And this is how close the mic will be to the cabinet. So whether you're going to have it further off in the room and imparting more of this room sound, or kind of more right up on the grill. And that's in Guitar Rig, that's kind of controlled by this room fader here. So what's nice in Guitar Rig is that you can actually combine multiple different amps and have it running through all this. So let's bypass cabinet for a quick second. You can hear the difference here. So first thing we notice is if you're pulling up a Guitar Rig and you don't realize this, you're going to want to change the inputs from default, a mono input, to stereo if you're using a stereo source like this. And then also I'm going to put in high mode because it just sounds better. Now if I take this preset tool and I open it up, this is going to give you an option to set it to pre, and then now I can adjust my mix just like I was over here in the cabinet tool. So we're just going to blend a small percentage of this in, and you can see it's doing that same exact kind of thing, except now you have a little more options to change those microphone types or cabinet types. So it's essentially just doing that. Again, I really like it. I suggest you try using it on different types of material, and maybe don't always go full mix on it because that doesn't necessarily sound great. It's a little woofy, a little mid-rangey in this case, but experiment in different amounts. I've even put it here on a snare. And if you ask me, it doesn't sound good, right? Here's the 909, as you would expect it to sound. And now with the cabinet, I've kind of made it sound woofier and weird. However, very important to note that in the context of the entire mix, it works, all right? We're not always just EQing things in a solo land. That doesn't work. It's not reality, right? So listen to it like this. Very subtle, but since I produced it, I kind of realized what it's doing, and I didn't want it so sharp and fizzy. So I threw out something like this, and it really just kind of brought it back, gave it more body, and made it fit better in the context of the entire song. So I'm a fan. Try it out on all sorts of different material.